When you're talking Scotland, South Africa, Europe in general, all over America, Australia,
I have
you'd
been
see a
thinking about just doing a little walk around my yard because I know some and I don't know some, and I know that some people will know. And I'm just really learning about trees. So, like, I mean, I'm just really going through like each tree and testing them out. So I don't really know that much about trees. Johnny B knows a lot about trees.
that's the best way to learn, though, just what is right there in your area. And if you just Google search them and tell people about them, they would do the same thing.
Oh, hey, it's
So
12:31. So we're going to mute you, or you can mute yourself. Thank you, because I would have taken me 5 minutes just to do that. So, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Unschooling the Aquarian Way, or Parents Dojo. All just labels in my opinion. So whatever we want to call it. And today I have a topic, and before I get into it, I want to ask if I'm going to look at participants. Mark K is here. Hello, everybody. So I want to see if anybody has a topic that they want to bring before I go on my ramble about the topic I've thought of. I was just kind of rushing around for work, so I'm just slowing myself down a little bit. So sorry. I don't mind the awkward silence. So my topic. Oh, hold on, wrong button. There we go. All right. So my topic is pushing the limits, and I guess breaking away. My son he really enjoys to break things and be destructive, like when I allow it, and in somewhat controlled environments. So the more that I am letting him make his own decisions, the more that he's like pushing the limits of our normal the whole prana economy between him and I feel like he's trying to make this massive shift. It's hard to explain. Like, I'll reason with him, and normally, he will be pretty good about having a conversation about reasoning what he's doing. For example, over the weekend, I have all of these bottles that I saved because I might need them or use them, right? I don't know what I'm going to do with them. So we have a plethora of these. And he asked, but he didn't just go ahead and do it. He asked me if he could smash some bottles. So, yeah, he had his friend over. You guys got to wear shoes and glasses and gloves. So then he goes and gets my step ladder, which it's like a 4 or 5 foot step ladder. So he's way up there. And so I'm trying to reason with him how to be safe about the situation, because you want to smash them, fine. As long as you clean them up and, but here lately, like, he doesn't want to reason with me. He just wants to do it, and like he's getting frustrated with me for trying to reason with him, and he wants me to just leave him alone, he says. And this is like a new happening that I've noticed. And so now I'm trying to work through his frustration and still try to reason with him. And it's just been interesting. Like, of course, parenting is every day. I have no idea, right? But of course, it's always like just a learning experience. And we went on that walk, on our moon walk, and he wasn't having anything of what I was saying about, the rocks are slippery and stuff. So I let him. I laugh about it now because he's fine, but not at the big rapid part, but at the bottom where it's really, really shallow. You can walk all the way across. So he takes the shoes off and he goes to go. I'm like, the water's gonna be freezing, and he's already swam in the ocean and stuff. I don't know how he does. But the first step, he was like, "Here I go," like Mario voice, and he freaking slips and falls back. So this whole walk, I was just so utterly like a nerve wreck without trying to show him that I was a nervous wreck inside. So that's just something that I am trying. And, he's 9 and he has ever been increasingly trying to be independent, like to the point where, I tell him he is only going to use the microwave when he's home and I'm not there. I leave him home alone and his grandma picks him up. Now his father is home, so he does walk up to his house. I give him a lot of freedom, but he's just pushing everything. I tell him not to use the stove or anything, and I call him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm cooking eggs." Where are you cooking the eggs? So he's got the pan out and the stove on and everything. So really, he's just pushing every limit. And that's just where I'm at with this whole journey right now. If anybody has any open witness for that, because as I am right now, I don't have any like this. We're just in the thick of it. So I don't, I think as we optimize things in ourselves, there's a process, and I feel like I'm just at the beginning of that process of trying to work with these shifts.
Hey, Anna, it's Josh. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, I figured I'd kind of chime in here and got a little bit of open witness for you. Probably a little bit more kinship, I would say. Our kids are different ages, but my 4-year-old, she's definitely at that stage right now, and maybe it comes and goes. I'm sure it will. Where they're a little bit more obedient, and other times where they're pushing back on you. And man, yeah, a lot of times it feels like she does things just to test her own boundaries, right? To see what she can get away with, to see like how serious we are about something. And man, I gotta tell you, like it's frustrating. A lot of times it's really frustrating because they also seem to know the most opportune moments to do it, right? Where they're like, oh, I can get away with it now. Maybe that's part of their game, right? Is they're trying to figure out like when they can push the boundaries and when they can get away with stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I know I can get away with it now because, like, here's an example. We were trying to get my daughter to finish her dinner, and she's always kind of, she's a very slow eater. And she's notorious for after dinner, shortly thereafter, I'm hungry, right? It's like, well, you're eating all your chicken or your broccoli or whatever it was, right? And so anyhow, this night she had done pretty well, even though it was, takes a little bit of encouragement throughout dinner. And then there was like just a couple pieces left of broccoli. And I was like, okay, you finished that, but I had to, walk away from the table because our son was doing something else or whatever. There was some other thing that pulled me away. And I was like, hey, but you finished that. and then, you know, you can get up from the dinner table. Well, she comes into the room and I was like, did you finish all your broccoli? She's like, yes, I did. So I kind of knew it was a lie, but I let her get away with it this time. And even later, we were having some conversation about it, and she's like, oh, Shyla had some broccoli. And I was like, oh, how did Shyla get some broccoli? She's like, I gave it to her. And I was like, I know, it's okay. Right. Like, you know, just trying to take different tactics, because you can't always just come down with, you know, a lot of like brimstone and fire and be like, like you should have eaten that. I'm going to, you know, spank you or get a timeout or whatever. Right? You know, all the different tactics you try and use. I don't know. Like sometimes you just gotta like let them get away with. You know, I think they're on their own. You know, that individualism kind of grows in all of us over time, and I think as we, you know, see these boundaries in front of us, and they're obviously going to push back on us more than anybody else because we're their parents. We set the most boundaries, right? So that's where they have the ability to flex a little bit and figure these boundaries out. How important are they? How rigid are they? Yeah, I don't know. Just some thoughts that are rattling through my head, and a little bit of kinship, because man, we go through that a lot in my household. So anyhow, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. I can definitely relate to, they just pick that moment where they know it's gonna like burst that bubble. But with the lying, my son tries to do this a lot. I always, you know, I tell him, I would rather you just, I think the biggest thing is to not have that explosive reaction. And, you know, I just say, I would rather you just, like, I'll tell him, like, I know that you're not telling me the truth. And I would rather you just tell me what the real deal is so we can talk about it in a friendly manner. And now that because they do go through these phases for sure. And he's much better now about, like, he'll mess with me all day long. I mean, he tries to scare me through the house and just like his little tricks, you know? Or like, this is gross, but he's all boy, and he will try and sneak around the house so that he can fart right next to me and then run away. That's his favorite game. And with the food and the dog, he does the same thing. As soon as I'm not looking, he'll give whatever it is that he doesn't want. But my dog is a picky eater, so my dog will take it and save it for later. So I go through his toy basket and I find all of the leavings. Testing his own boundaries is a really good way to think of it, because this really is a whole new dynamic for us. And I think that he is feeling like he has an opportune moment to push these boundaries because I'm changing my boundaries. So I feel like on some subconscious level, and also I feel like he's going through this phase of, he doesn't want my influence. Like when his friends come over, I mean, all I can say is, what do you want to eat? Other than that, it's like, he doesn't want my input. So that's been a big struggle for me too, because like he doesn't really want me involved as much, I guess. And so that's been a hard struggle for me. Amber, go ahead, unmute, dear. Hi, Jordan. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Sorry, I saw her there. Go ahead, Amber.
No worries. Hi, Anna. Good morning, everybody. I was just thinking about what you were saying, and Anna, he's going to go through phases like that where he's going to like push you away and I'm too big for you, mom. And then he's going to pull you back. And I feel like you know, my oldest went through these stages where he would be really, really close and need me, you know, right there. And then he was independent. And I'm seeing my 8-year-old kind of go through the same sorts of, you know, phases that they'll last for like a month or two. And she's just kind of expressing her newfound independence or whatever she's feeling empowered by, that she wants to play out because she, you know, she wants to do it on her own. Right. And feel like she can do it. So yeah, I understand. I can relate to that, but just know it's temporary. I know they tug at our heartstrings so much, but it's so temporary. That's all.
That is the biggest thing that does not really weigh it down too much, is because I know that, you know, we're gonna get it figured out. It's just that getting through that period, I guess, because before, you know, we had a really great dynamic, and you know, we still get into some very deep conversation and dialogue, but with the whole reasoning of things, like, he used to be really good at, you know, talking back and forth about the situation and stuff like that, and he just doesn't want to hear it anymore at all. And he's dangerous with things, I think, is the biggest thing. So
Hey, one other thought. What if, you know, these moments where our kids are going through this pushback, where they're trying to find their, you know, their sovereignty, their individuality, you know, what if we try and think of it more as like, you know, it's obviously tough in the moment when they're not listening to you, but you know, this is really a pat on the back to us as parents, because we've given them, I guess, the confidence in themselves that they feel like, I don't need you for that, or I can make the decision on this, or whatever. So it's actually sort of a pat on the back in a way, even though, you know, it can be a nuisance at times. But they're finding themselves in these moments, and they're finding their individuality because we're allowing them the space to do it. We're instilling confidence in them, and that's why, you know, they go through these periods, right? If they were just, you know, 100% obedient all the time, that might feel like more of a success as a parent. But I wonder if there's actually more danger in that, where, you know, you've just instilled obedience in them, and maybe they won't have the same confidence, or it'll take them longer to come into themselves and into their own confidence. Yeah, anyhow, just another thought that popped in my head.
no, that's good. I like that, because, you know, it's a lot of the duality of it. The vitriol with also, you know, the beautiful new energy that he is really creating for himself. And it's all come on from giving him that space, for sure. You know, from going from the schedule with the school and everything. And now he just told his friend the other day that, oh, we just gave up on school. And so it's funny to see what he thinks of it as, but he's learned, you know, he's always learning and doing things. But yeah, he's definitely, I think it is another part of him coming into himself, because he has the space to do it. And I think the more he's able to explore in his own preference of activity, he's gotten much more confident. Like, you know, at school, they're in the desk all the time, and then they go out to recess, and that's the time they get, and they have you know, it's like 30 minutes. And then in gym, it's just a coordinated thing. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of that confidence is coming from, because if he wants to, all of these activities that he wants to do, he's able to explore more of what he wants, right? I don't know. I think he's gonna grow up to be some demolition guy tearing stuff down. It's one of his favorite things to do. D-Mac or Mark, I don't know who was first.
D-Mac was.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of what Josh said. I think it's just the boy. I didn't have a dad growing up. I had a couple handlers through my father's side of the family, just people that were involved in steering me and toughening me up, I guess. And I started working when I was 11 and shit. So I had a lot of fucking my mom said when Josh walked in, she said she was doing some coffee and she said, you weren't like that. I didn't push boundaries or anything, but I had a lot of freedom. Like I didn't pay attention in school or anything, but I got into sports. And I learned pretty quick that if you can concentrate and enjoy sports and stuff like that, you can do whatever you want in school. They're going to push you through. They're going to get you through school. And it gave me a lot of structure. I don't think it's him rebelling against you. I think it's him like saying, I want some eggs and cooking eggs on the stove. I'm 9 years old. That shit's easy. I'm going to do that. And I just watched my grandson do that. My grandson's he's a little starts every night home and he cooked dinners and stuff for mom and sis and little brother. And I don't think it's him rebelling. I think he's just a little stubborn guy and he's a tough little boy. I've seen a couple pictures on your Facebook. He's a tough little bugger. He's going to be a tough boy. And I'm like, if you got into sports or something like that, I could definitely see demolition. But I'm not saying push him into sports, but I mean, that's fun. They'll get around a group of guys in the sports and they'll make a couple friends and they'll want to do it. And boy, when you do something that, like a football sport, a contact sport, not soccer. I wouldn't do soccer. You learn soccer to learn how to run. And once you learn how to run and shit good, you want to learn like other stuff. Like we can all run and get that balance. So put him in some contact sport, he might take to it. My stepson, he was 15 when I moved to Australia. And he would already got through that, seeing how far he could go. He was just rebellious at that point. And his dad wasn't in the picture for a couple of years when I got there. And I was 24. I'd just come out of that phase. And it gave me a chance to kind of relive a lot of that and freshen up as I got older, watching him and his experiences. But I loved him and I treated him like he was a person. And I tried to lead by example, but he was very rebellious. He could go pick fights with groups of people, talk shit. He was a shorter guy, but he was a real shit talker. But he got into MMA. And boy, he just took to it. He just loved it. He loved the contact of it, the putting people in chokeholds, using, not being a guy or anything, but still being able to choke out a really big person or something like that. And he did it for years. And he is such a beautiful, balanced, wonderful man. And he really is. And he's just an awesome person, just an absolutely awesome person. And getting into a sport where he could release that energy and be a boy, being into
he has
down his.
We've actually been doing sports since he was 3. We started with karate, and so he did karate, but that was not enough. So we did basketball, and basketball was not really, we did that for 2 seasons, and then we started football, and he loves football. And we did baseball, and we're doing baseball again, and he loves baseball. I don't know how he can. It's so funny how he switches into baseball and he's all focused and you have to sit there and, he likes second, or he doesn't like first. He likes where you can run around on the field. But yeah, he loves sports. And a big thing last year was they could not tackle. So that was a big thing for us last year because it was flag football, and he's not good with the football. He's good with the baseball, but a football, I don't know what happened. He can't catch or throw it, but he loves to tackle. So that was
he's a linebacker. You bred a linebacker. That's a natural linebacker right there. You put.
Yeah, I did. That was not my doing. No, that was not my doing. He scares me sometimes, but So he does like the contact sports. I tried to get him into lacrosse to try that out because it would just be something new and different, and it's still contact, but they were doing it at the Y inside the facility because it's really cold when they, I guess, that's my only guess. And so we had to do the masks and the temperature and stuff. And he was like, no, we're just not going to do that. And it's his choice, if he wanted to go and wear the mask, then if he wanted to play the sport and try it out and do that and go into that facility that way, then that would have been his choice too. But he was like, no. And even when we got to baseball this year, the coach's wife was like, do you guys have masks? I was like, no, we don't bring any. And that was the end of the conversation. And that's all that was said. And she just went on to hand out, the shirts or whatnot. So that was the end of that. And really nobody brings their mask to the field. It's like the coach and the coach's son. It's so, but yeah, he does get into all of that. I think for me, I've come to the terms that he likes to be rough and do things that way. But I think the biggest struggle is really just his reluctance to reason. And Amanda said in the comments that it could be him reacting to his dad being in the hospital for a month. I have seen this pattern with his father, but it's sparked from like when him and his father are like in a conflict, and so my son's father was diagnosed with cancer when Dax was 4. It was 4 or 5. It was maybe right before his 5th birthday. So his father has been in and out of the hospital a lot. His father is also in and out of being stable. You know what I mean? And it's funny, like in the winter, he doesn't have much work, so he has more time. So therefore, Dax spends less time with him because, he has more time to drink and just be an idiot, right? So in the summer, when he's working, he doesn't drink as much, he's more sober, and he will actually take Dax to do something constructive, and in a sense. So his father has always kind of been this, like he's always, very close, and they have their own relationship, which I try not to dictate too much. I try to just let him experience his father for as he is, right? Because I could really shit talk his father all day long, but he loves his son and is there, and I chose to procreate with him. So that's just what the situation is, right? So it is, I have seen patterns in Dax a lot with his father, but it's when, so he's been in and out of the hospital, and we went through this really tough period when he was 5, 6, and kind of working through that notion of his father being in the hospital, right? So we have been working on that for like a really long time. And with his father being in and out, it's not as much as a drastic change, like dad's there for fun, play, and guy stuff, right? They practice the sports, they ride the dirt bikes, they do the fun stuff, so he's always, his stability is at my house, and for us to not see dad for 3 or 4 weeks, it's not really that much of a blow, I guess. But I mean, it does give me something to think about because it's something that's been out of my mind because I feel like he has a really good emotional outlet with me, with his dad. And we talk so much about what he needs to get out that it's not something that I would have thought of. So, you know, maybe that's something I can give more witness to. So I appreciate that, Amanda. I'm sorry, guys. I just kind of went. Mark, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for waiting.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks, Anna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm driving here. I might, my phone might die, but on my way home. Yeah, I can't really imagine your situation. I mean, I don't know what we would do with a boy, and let alone at that rough age, 9, and your situation. I really just, you know, I'm glad you brought this topic up though, because it's I was going to bring it up anyway, just the struggles we're going through. Just, I guess, more along the lines of what Josh said, kinship, camaraderie. Just, I should probably just sit back and listen. But I just want to add it on our situation to hopefully get some advice. Cause yeah, definitely looking for advice here. Just, so we got a 5-year-old daughter, as I said before. She's, you know, she's got a lot of that tomboy male energy, as well. She's very high energetic. You know, we were at our wits end when she was 3. We didn't know we were going to make it. It was just a nightmare that whole year. And we got through it. Ages 4 and 5 have been so much better, just light years difference. But now all of a sudden, yeah, she's doing exactly what you all are talking about, the boundaries thing, just pushing our buttons. Just, you know, it's kind of cliche, just all the same thing, just trying to, every night, got to get her to eat her vegetables, the broccoli, it's just a game. She said, you know, she will not touch any other vegetable. She goes around telling people she loves broccoli, but then every night it's a big fight to get her to eat it. And so my wife does the, you know, countdown timer, which she hates that. She hates being on the clock. And, you know, we try to do all the tricks to, you know, if you want a dessert or, you know, want anything else, or you got to eat your broccoli, and just, you know, that's just something I think we all go through things like that. But lately, the worst has been bedtime. That has always been so difficult. I took over getting her to bed after my wife's around 2, and it's kind of been my duty ever since then to get her to bed. It's just been a constant game of just giving her a ritual, you know, the books and maybe a snack before bed or something, and then brush teeth and all that. And so I got into a nice little routine with that. And all of a sudden now she's just like really pushing my buttons, like get her to sleep. And, you know, she doesn't like being alone. She's scared. You know, she's not, she's just playing games, and she'll come out like six times. And it's like, oh, I just want to give you a hug. Oh, I want to give you another hug. Oh, I want to, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to go to the bathroom 3 times, and just all these little games she's playing. I mean, she is pushing it to like 11 o'clock every night. She's never had naps. And lately it's been, yeah, it's like not 10:30, 11 o'clock every night. And I just struggle with going back and forth, being a hard ass, yelling, screaming, doesn't do much good, threaten the spanking, which I definitely don't like. I'm all more threat than anything else, although she has gotten them. I don't really think that does anything. I don't, you know, I'm sure people have different views on that, but just kind of, you know, you don't know what else to do. Your tricks are exhausted. You got nothing left in the bag to do this. But she never took naps, and so it's like, all right, she's got to get 8-9 hours of sleep. And so this is like a serious thing, because yesterday she was obviously pretty exhausted. And so yeah, I just I don't know what to do anymore, because it's like I get mad, and she's almost like she doesn't buy into my threats anymore. And so, but I hate to yell at her, so it's just like I try to be nice, but then she's like, oh, he's a pushover, I can take advantage of him. And so yeah, so I guess I just wanted to chime in on all that. My 5-year-old's doing the same thing. She's pushing her boundaries, and I'm just kind of struggling with the violent, threatening, yelling approach versus just kind of being, you know, talking to her, reasoning with her, all that, which seems to go over better. But then she also takes advantage of it as well. She's pretty clever, and I think that's all I got. Well, yeah, one more thing. It's weird because we never had to worry about her you know, with the baby proofing the house, like she was gonna eat something dangerous or something, or but just acting really weird all of a sudden lately. It's just like I try to explain things to her and she just not listen. She don't want to listen. It's like I caught her like eating something off the playground the other day, which I would have never she never did anything like that as a baby, never put anything in her mouth and swallowed it. We just thought we were safe there with baby proofing. And now she just like, what the fuck are you doing? Eating that up? You don't know what that is. And I keep trying to tell her, she's doing weird things all of a sudden. So, I mean, I'm sure it's just a matter of all going through this, and a lot of you have been through this before, so I definitely appreciate hearing from people with older kids what they went through on all this. But yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Thank you. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I gotta tell you, she reminds me a lot of me when I was supposed to be going to bed when I was her age and older. I mean, probably until I was a teenager, honestly. I really always budged the bedtime, and my son and I have just been through this bedtime struggle. And I yell and I scream, and that just causes him to get fired right up. And so, because when we used to have this schedule, like 9 o'clock is bedtime, lights out, we have to go to sleep. And I have kind of completely changed the whole belief system almost, that we have to go to sleep. And that has really done magical things to bedtime. I know, it might be, it might not even resonate with you and your household and your family and everything, but I just say, I have said, it's just quiet time for you to go in your room. And that's kind of like the dialogue of it. And we still read our books. He reads and then I read. And, I tuck him in, and I used to cuddle with him, and we've moved past that phase. Sometimes he'll ask me to stay and cuddle for a little while, so I do. But because when I was saying it's bedtime, like he would throw this fit, like, where is this coming from? And that's kind of where the pushing the boundaries really started, was with the bedtime. So I've tried to shift his belief of thinking that he has to go to bed. So I've really just been saying, go to your room. It's just time to be quiet and calm ourselves down. And at first, he exhausted himself. So he stayed up way too late. And he does come to work with me, and he's got to get up. And so he has shifted to, it's about 10 o'clock. Even if I don't say anything to him, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to go take my quiet time and I'll go in the sunroom, and it'll be 10 o'clock, he'll come and get me and tell me he's going upstairs and he wants to read. So it's made a big difference. Lynette, your hand is up, and Amber.
Hi. So something that's always worked in my house, that we don't struggle with bedtimes or things like that. And I think it's very interesting because a lot of my friends deal with similar things. And some approach that I've always taken, and who knows, I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but I've always asked my kids, what do you need to go to sleep? Like, what does your nighttime routine look like? What do you want to do in order to settle down? And I give a lot of those big decisions, when there's struggles, I put it on them, like, what do we need to do to solve this problem? Like between my two kids, if there's a conflict between the two and one wants to go left and wants to go right, I'll say, okay, I don't know what to do here. What do you guys think we can do so you're both happy? So you're both getting what you need. I tend to put a lot of those big decisions or big conflicts or things that I personally am struggling with. I let them know, like, mommy's struggling with this. I don't know how to handle this. What do you guys think? How can we come to a conclusion? Or what do you need? And I find that my children are very well-rounded and behaved, and I don't struggle with needing to discipline, because they really just let me know what they need. And communication, I think it just comes down to that. It's like, communicate with your kids, let them know when we're struggling. And a lot of times they can resolve, and we're teaching them how to resolve issues within themselves. Find that answer in them, as opposed to us pushing our beliefs down on them. Is just giving them the tools to problem solve on their own. And then with Mark, with your daughter and her being very sensory right now with putting things in her mouth and all of that. My son is extremely sensory. He's always put stuff in his mouth. I've always let him. I mean, if it's rocks, if it's dog food, whatever it is, from a little age, even till now, he's 7, and every once in a while he'll, like, put a battery on his tongue or something totally, like, what I think, I'm like, what are you doing? I think we need to step back and realize how much is being learned by those actions. It may look crazy to us and we know better, but we've done those things too. Like growing up, we've all done stupid stuff, and our parents were probably not around to witness us doing it. The difference is now we're around and we're watching our kids more, and we're seeing all the dumb stuff they're doing, or what we see as dumb. But it's all learning, right? As long as it's safe. And that's a big thing in my house. I'll see my kid do something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to look away. I don't want to see how this is going to play out. But I say to him, do you feel safe? And if both of my kids say, yes, we feel safe, then I turn away and I don't watch. And it's same with putting things in their mouth. If it's whatever they need to do, it's like, okay, go ahead. And if that's what you need to do, go ahead and try it out. Let me know how it turns out. It's just stepping back a little bit. I think we're so wanting to guide them so much in this right direction and make sure we're doing everything right. And I think we need to just step back a little bit. I know I did, and just allow them to become themselves, figure things out on their own, give them a little more control in their life and say, because they are independent. And I think when you do that, as in my situation that I've seen since I've stepped back as much as I have, they really fall into themselves. And there's never need for discipline anymore in my house. There is no yelling or shouting or, things like that. So I don't know. I didn't hear the beginning of the conversation, so I don't know, Anna, what you're experiencing with your son with being destructive and in what sense that's happening. I don't know if it's new to you homeschooling and him feeling this like lack of structure all of a sudden. So it's kind of spiraling in a way of like, I need to destroy stuff because my life feels a little disoriented right now, or if it's coming from someplace else. But give him things to destroy. I mean, that's something we do too in our house. Is I'll buy like really cheap eggs somewhere or something. I hard boil them, and then I let him destroy them with the machete knife, and just like give him things to like, destroy. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you so much. I love your approach with things, and it gives me a new approach with bedtime too. I really like that, because what we do still have some struggle. If I tell him that I am done for the day, what am I gonna do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do, but you need to figure it out. But it's just, I think adds to the dialogue. And with Dax, he's always enjoyed destroying things, always. Like we would, even when he was little, if there was a toy that moved, he wanted to take it apart. And if he couldn't get it apart with tools, he wants to smash it. Like he wants to. So be it, right? Obviously it wouldn't be something that is like of high value and stuff like that, but So I've always found ways for him to be able to do that, you know. And he's grown up seeing his father in a destructive type of job as well. So he enjoys that thing, you know, it's fun. And like old TVs before I take them to throw away if they don't work or something, or bricks, or whatever it may be that he feels like I need to rip this apart. But he's always been really good about reasoning about how to be safe about it. So that's my struggle, is that, so maybe I do need to, like, I'm having a hard time stepping back of not being within that reason, right? Like, I'm trying to have this back and forth reasoning of, because he doesn't want to put shoes on to break the glass. Okay, well, what happens when you come down from that ladder? And he doesn't want to have that conversation anymore. So I think that's my hardest part, is stepping back and letting him come down off the ladder after he's broken this glass. But I don't, so that's the thing. I'm trying to avoid some serious injuries, but because I feel like his safe capacitor, I don't know. I have that severe worry. It's like on a regular basis, I think to myself, I'm so glad the day is done and I didn't go to the hospital today. Because, you know, I say the prayer so many times. Ooh, the feeling like the day is done and we didn't go to the hospital. So that's really the biggest struggle right now. Amber, please go ahead. And then we have, oh, sorry.
Yeah. So how do you think you would react if have you had the discussion with him where you're like, you know, this makes me very uncomfortable. It's my job to protect you. What can you do so I feel comfortable with your choices or your decisions? Like, have you ever had that dialogue with him of putting it on him? And yeah.
Yes. And I tell him, like, you know, it makes me feel uncomfortable. He's like, well, don't watch. Well, go back and go do what you were doing. So that's the point we're at. It's like, he doesn't even want, maybe like we've been doing a lot more together, and he's kind of like, he doesn't even want me to tell him that I'm nervous, or it makes me nervous watching you, or yeah.
He might just be wanting to show you really like how capable he is. You know, maybe it's a psychological, like a subconscious way of like saying, Mom, like, look at what I can do, right? Like, I know how to make good decisions too. And maybe, you probably do just need to turn away a little bit and allow those things to unfold. I know it's hard because I still struggle. Like I said, it's like, I still turn away and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for the screams, right? And like something to go wrong. But you're going to find probably that he very much knows his own boundaries, like what makes him feel uncomfortable, you know. And I'm dealing with a kid that's probably would be considered on the spectrum, you know, like, and even he knows like his own boundaries of what is safe, you know. Just, I'd give him a little more, like, just as much as you can, just keep trying to give a little bit more, and you're going to see probably that he knows what he's doing a little more than we realize, you know. Think about it, like back in the day, young men went off to war, they were like years old. Like, I think we tend to forget like how capable they really are of making big decisions. So yeah, I don't know.
No, thank you. Yeah, I am struggling, but I think I need to like stop the arguing, because the reasoning is not a conversation anymore. So I just need to and see what happens. And Amber, please go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of what I wanted to say, Lynette, you said, and even more, like you just hit the nail on the head in so many ways. And maybe just to add to that, well, I was thinking of an experience yesterday with my daughters where my youngest is 3, and she I was doing something in the yard and I look over and she's dangling like 10 feet in the air from the stairs. And my 8-year-old is helping her and going to catch her. And I was like, because I mean, it's a pretty big fall and there are like kind of thorny bushes underneath. It's just a really bad situation. And she was, in between this space where, if you let go, you're here, you're going to hit your face on the stairs. And I just had to stop and like not even get involved because I knew they were in the zone, in the flow. And if I said anything at all, something was going to happen. I was going to interrupt their flow state. Right. And so I just held my breath and I watched, and luckily she dropped and her sister caught her enough and she fell and she's rolling in the ground and she's laughing. And I could tell she hurt herself a little, but because she was so proud she did it, she was, she's laughing. And then I said to the girls, I said, normally I wouldn't be comfortable with you doing that. And I didn't want to startle you and freak out, but that scared me. And, and then my 8-year-old was like, Mom, I don't think we're going to do that again. And she admitted it was her idea. And, but it was that moment where if I had stopped them, something could have happened. It could have, become emotional. So yeah. And I was going to say, did you say your son is 9, Anna? So at 9, there's a developmental stage called the 9-year change where they start to become more aware of the world around them as far as like they develop a more fatalistic view of the world. And what comes with that change is boundary pushing, a new boundary pushing, because they're feeling capable, but they need to test out that capability, right? And so like our job as parents is how can we really help our children self-regulate, right? And be able to handle these situations. And I've experimented with all sorts of different ways. I've gone like my oldest, who definitely people told me all the time he's on the spectrum. They were, or behind my back would say he has ADD and all these things, right? Totally fine, no issues, just tons of energy, crazy boundary pusher. And I kind of let him do his thing, and I realize now in retrospect, it was a bit of a mistake. Like what he was asking for from me was to set clear boundaries, not necessarily in the moment where he was pushing a boundary, but in all the rest of the time. And so for him, and my daughter, who's 8, doesn't need quite as much structure and quite as many boundaries as he did. And so I almost feel like the really strong boundary pushers are almost asking for more structure to feel safe. And I think that if we help set healthy boundaries for them, it creates this foundation from which they can, grow and expand and flourish. And children want to feel safe. They want to know what to expect. They want to know what's coming. I know we all have been a little bit like public school has left a bad taste in our mouths, and we've talked about that before. But there are good things about school, and one of them is structure. And I think that when children know what's coming, and that doesn't have to mean like you set up your home school like an actual school, right? Because I've tried that and that hasn't worked for us. But just doing things at the same time each day, and it doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to have this day. Josh, I went through public school too. No, I turned out okay. I just mean like, I think that there's this, disillusionment around school being so like, this is what you have to do. And basically teaching people to become factory workers, right? Breaking the spirit. But I think with structure at home, if we set, for example, with bedtime, right? I've tried letting my kids decide what bedtime was. And that was okay to an extent, but I also noticed that there is actually like our circadian rhythms tell us that when the sun sets, it's time to wind down and get ready for bed. And if we miss that window, for us, it's between 7 and 8. So if I don't start bedtime routine around 7, and we used to try to go to bed at 7, and it was just too early because we did outdoor activities. So it was dark and, so that was hard for us. But I've noticed if bedtime gets pushed very far past 8, then they get the second wind, and they actually like their bodies will produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and they get the second wind, and then they can't wind down till like 9 or 10 at night. And so I think like little things like that, like catching that bedtime window and trying to start a bedtime routine earlier is so helpful. And I know like for my husband, he doesn't do bedtime very often. Like he works late, he comes home, he has like maybe an hour or two before the kids go to bed. And I've been asking him lately, like if he would help with bedtime just to give me a break, because I don't really have breaks from the kids. And it's a real struggle for him. And he's trying to follow my routine, but it's a new routine. It's different. And so the whole time the kids are pushing the boundaries, and he ends up yelling and feeling frustrated, and I completely empathize. But it just really is like, it's about this consistency. And so I know if I remind him, like, if you did this for 2 or 3 days in a row and we're consistent, they would probably then be like, okay, this is what to expect from daddy. He's not going to budge. He's not going to keep coming in and giving me cuddle. I mean, I don't want to say like, just, be mean and no, you're going to bed, but you know what I'm saying? Like if he was consistent with a few things, then I think they would work through it and it would be okay. And I also have to say, like, just when we get them figured out or we get a new routine down, they change, right? So it's just this ongoing struggle to find balance. But our ultimate goal is to have balance. Our ultimate goal is to have balance. And I really, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of routine. And with my daughters, like, we have certain days we do certain things. We have our baking day and our painting day. And I've noticed that my daughter, my 8-year-old, knows what to expect. And if I don't follow our routine, she definitely is pushing things more. She's kind of like, why, and like Lynette was saying too about like checking in with them, asking them if they feel safe, letting them do these things. I just think that's so important, because the more we tell them what to do, the more they resist. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to try it out and feel empowered in themselves, but also know that we're there supporting them and supervising them, and not necessarily their cheerleader either, right? But that we have their back, and we're there for them if they do need us. And that's not to say, Anna, you should just let him climb down that ladder and land in glass. Like, that's a boundary. And it is your job to set a very clear boundary when he's in a situation where it could be really, really dangerous. At the same time, he might need to cut his feet in glass to figure it out. It's just one of those things. It depends on the kid. And, just do your best with what you're doing, and try to stay consistent. And I'm sure there's other things that I was thinking to say, but that's all for now. I know Dee's got his hand up.
Thank you so much. I do think there's a lot of value in the routine, and the routine of the bedtime. Like 8 o'clock is the warning. 9 o'clock we go upstairs, and there is a lot of value in that. Jordan, go ahead, dear. Hello.
There goes. Hey, this is Danny. Jordan and I are
Hey,
we're on a
Danny,
road
sorry.
trip. Jordan's here with me.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah, we're driving, so it also might cut out. Let me know if it gets choppy. But I just was appreciating what people were saying, and wanted to chime in with the notion of allowance. That's I like to look at the general concepts, and like what's more relevant to me right now obviously is dogs, but I have worked with kids a lot, and basically took my approach that I had developed with kids and kind of translated it to dogs, which is just in my mind it's a similar approach, just catering to a different set of instincts. And what I see is that in the world in general, there is a lot of suppression, and this is both with dogs, with people, that everyone tends to be over suppressed. And as well, with that suppression, there's not this allowance of natural instincts and natural tendencies to come out. And so what you will see is, as a response to that suppression, a sort of overreaction or an overcompensation, where the dog or the child will then, take that little bit of freedom and run with it, and that kind of thing. So I see that a lot. And my approach with dogs, but also with kids, has always been to really start on that allowance side of things, and really try and find ways to nurture those expressions of energy. Again, like a simplified way that I look at it is like there's energy in and energy out, right? Where the dogs are the humans, we're eating so much and we're metabolizing and catalyzing that into an expression of energy. And that energy is being channeled through our instinctual predispositions. For dogs, you know, that might be barking or digging or running or whatever. For humans, that might be talking or running, playing, you know, fill in the blank. There's a lot of different just general instinct, putting things in our mouths, right? That's an instinct. And so there's like a bigger picture of seeing the natural expression and allowing the child to just experience the world, but as well being there to facilitate and to guide that process. So like, for instance, with the dogs, I'm a fan of a retractable leash. And just because I can ask the dog to come heel, but I can also give that dog the space to move around, but it's also on a leash and it's safe and it's not going to get hit by a car or whatever. So just, I guess if I'm bringing anything, it's just that there's a balance to allowing the expression, allowing the instinct, but also guiding it and setting up those boundaries. But just because our world in general is so much more about suppression, I think we have to, in general, start more in the realm of allowance. And yeah, I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. There is a lot of power in everything you said. And it really ties into what Lynette has said, you know, about letting them explore that natural expression and allowing them. It's just, I guess it's hard to find that boundary point, right? Like, where should I stake my post of protection? But thank you very much. I'm going to look at hands, and I have the next.
I was going to put my hand down. I think Lynette hit it home. Like, I'm covered in little piddly ass scars and stuff on my head and my hands and things like that. When I was a teenager, I learned to use super glue. I wasn't going to the hospital. It was just a problem, right? I'm a boy. That's what boys do. And a boy's going to break bottles because breaking bottles is cool, right? Boy's going to break a TV open because that's robot guts. You know what I'm saying? We get to see what the hell thing work. Even if you understand it, it's still going to be cool or interesting or something to do. And we're growing as we do these things. And I kind of see childhood and what I witnessed. God, I miss my grandkids so much. It's so hard keeping the relationship that we have online across the world, you know, and I watched them grow up since they were born, but they're tightrope walkers. And when they start to get this independence, they're literally a tightrope walker. Everything they do, just like Amber didn't break the girls' concentration when they were doing something crazy as hell, they were tightrope walking. If you call her out, then you put a fear in her head, you throw her train of thought off. Kids play with lighters. We learn to use that. And then we learned that, you know, gas catches on fire. We're going to set something on fire at some point, right? We're walking a tightrope. If you come out there and mess up what we already know in our 8-10 years of experience and what we've gained and what we're utilizing to do this trick or whatever we're trying to figure out how science works, you're going to throw a kink in how the whole thing's going on. And I think I'm not looking. I'm gonna be in the other room with some Band-Aids and some alcohol rub, and you know I've got whatever. I've got the GP on standby on the phone. I'm ready at any time. This is kind of a transition for you, I think, and it's into being more of a I don't know. Don't let them ride a motorcycle, you know, standing up on it, doing crazy shit. You see them doing something, you step in, and that's when a whooping comes into play. That's really when you should speak up, when it's time for a whooping. That's stupid. You're going to get yourself hurt. You're going to get everybody around you hurt. And I think that's the biggest thing you could emphasize at his age is maintaining other people, because he's going to learn on his own. He's going to slip on those rocks. You know what I mean? He's going to be 5 feet in the air breaking shit. He's just going to be doing it, whether you're there watching or not. He's going to pass a house with his buddies one day, and it's going to be old and rickety, and they're going to throw rocks and break the windows and just be destructive. They're just going to do that shit. When he's 20 years old, he's going to have all these stories. Mom won't know most of them. And you just got to let him do it. You got to give him that freedom, especially in the situation. He is becoming a man. He is, you know, I wouldn't say developing early or anything. He's just a boy's boy. And that's what it sounds like to me. He's just being a boy's boy. And I think the best thing that a mother could do is let him be that boy's boy. Let him learn that sovereignty. Let him get some scars. You know what I'm saying? Let him cut himself up. That's the thing. Curiosity killed the cat, but it didn't kill the human, because humans are fucking resilient. We are resilient. We're not going to get stuck in a heating vent or, you know, mess around and get a piece of wood pulled over our head and crush our skull. No, we're humans. We're smarter than cats, and we're curious, and we're very curious. And I think that'll bring him in touch with nature. I think that'll bring him in touch with God and himself. And just so many things are going to just, with you giving him some freedom and just kind of doing as Lynette said, like, I'm not watching this. You know, and Amber hit home as well. But I mean, that was a perfect example. That was a great example on the stairs. And yeah, I'm prattling on a bit, but I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I'm a big boy. I'm a big kid, right? I think ironically, I was a dog in my last life. So I think, you know, Danny can, me and him can bond on that. I think I was this sovereign dog wandering around the neighborhood or something, eating garbage, just chilling. Just what I saw was my experience. And I think I carried that over to now. And I really feel I'm not a man child or anything. I'm like a nature boy or some goofy shit, right? But I am what I am. And I do have a resonance with, like, you know, how a kid would perceive things, or my experience with my mom. I can kind of step back into my childhood. I had a really happy childhood, and those memories are very profound for me. So I can kind of put myself in that resonance. And I just wanted to speak on that. And I think that Lynette and Amber hit it home. And yeah, I think allowance is very interesting as well, Danny. I think that's really cool. All right, I'm gonna pass it back over. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you. What Amber said and what you said makes me think of that particular moment when he's up. Well, I see him up on the ladder and I come out, and you know, they were in that flow of doing their thing. Yeah, and Mom came out, was like, "Hey, y'all need shoes, glasses." And it was like I completely bursted their bubble and their flow. So maybe staking my boundary would be just finding that approach to still allow them to flow. This is great stuff. I'm so glad that you guys are all here working this with me. Amber, please take the mic.
I was just thinking about what you're saying, and you know, like a response maybe in that moment of, like, you know, coming out and offering shoes or whatever. Maybe a response for him more would be like, depending on what he's doing, right? He does some amazing feat in front of you that's really dangerous. You just, wow, that was insane and dangerous, but you are fine and way to go, you know. And like, you know, maybe, I don't know, sometimes I've been told, like, you shouldn't make such a big deal out of things. I grew up in a really, like, my mom is very happy and excited, and she gets over the top with everything. So I try to find a middle ground with that. But kids really love when you're really excited by what they're doing. They feel so good. And, you know, if he's pushing all the time, and he's used to seeing his mom stressed and with that look of fear on her face, because, you know, you're his protector. But maybe just trying as hard as you can to, like, just really emphasize what you see him doing well, you know, and even if it's like dangerous feat or whatnot. And I just wanted to add one more thing, that under every behavior is or under every action is a behavior. I always think, like, under every addiction is a childhood trauma. So, like, for children, under every negative behavior or positive behavior, there's something underneath that driving that, right? And so often if it's a negative behavior coming out, or you see it's consistent, there's some need that's not being met. It's not, you know, them just being boys or girls or being crazy and pushing boundaries, that's one thing. But if there's something you see where it's like, They're trying to get something from you, you know? And so it's either validation, acknowledgement. You know, I think Danny touched on this, and we've talked about this before. We live in this authoritarian society where, you know, and I know a lot of men say, like, you just need to, like, my son's dad is very like about spanking, you handle things with discipline, but it's made him afraid of him, right? He's afraid of his dad. He doesn't, and he told me one time, I don't respect you, Mom. He said this was a couple of years ago, and we worked through it, but he said that. So, well, why don't you respect me? And he said, because I'm not afraid of you. And he had equated respect with fear. And he talked about how he fears his dad and he fears his dad's mom, because, you know, he goes, I won't cross lines with them. But it was also a good reflection, because it made me realize how lax I was with boundaries, right? And how I needed to find kind of a happy medium there. So yeah, so I've been trying to do that more with my own kids. Like, oh, last night, my daughter, Charlie, so we're sitting at the table, we're eating, and she got up, my 8-year-old, and walked across the table at dinner. And I was like, what are you doing? And then she did it again, and she was being crazy. And my husband was frustrated, and it was really pushing a boundary, and he yelled at her. And I realized in that moment, like, it was going to escalate and become kind of a negative conflict situation. I was like, whoa, something else is happening here. And I just looked at her and I said, wait a minute, you know, come off the table. I was like, do you need attention? Do you need a hug? And I realized, and she said, yes. And I gave her a hug, and all of a sudden, all that energy dispersed, and she was fine. And what it was is, you know, he got home, dinner was almost ready. We're rushing, we're sitting at the table. She didn't get any time to connect with her daddy. And he and I were talking, and we're doing things, and she didn't get that check-in, that connection. So she went across the table to get attention. And it easily could have escalated into this, like, you're in trouble, we're angry, whatever. But instead it was like, I was able to catch, and I haven't always done this, but I was able to catch it and say, like, do you need a hug? And then she gave me one. And then I was like, do you need a hug from Daddy? And then they had this moment, and it was really, really amazing. And everything diffused. So yeah, I just wanted to share that as well.
That's really beautiful. I love that. Hold on, there's a little work thing I have to diffuse. There's a fire I have to put out. I'm gonna check hands. Did you hear him honking at me? There's there's people moving out of one of our buildings, and they're parked in the loading dock, and one of the delivery guys, he honks at me and throws his hands up like, what's going on? Ridiculous. And then he drives away. Mark, please take the talking stick for me. And then I have James True. Hello.
Yes, thanks, Anna. Again, yeah, Amber, on that topic, I was kind of alluring to it, but yeah, it does seem like sometimes that fear is all you got. That's like, just, if she's afraid of you, then she'll do stuff. And I hate doing that. I hate being authoritarian, but sometimes it does seem like that's the only thing that works. And I know my wife and I go back and forth on being the bad cop, just the one yelling at her, threatening with it. And I think lately my wife's been a little more of an enforcer on that. You know, she's got to crack the whip with the homeschool every day. So yeah, I'm just kind of that topic. I just kind of wondering if you think that there's any merit to keeping that fear in the prana economy, or maybe if anyone else has any inputs on that too, how they feel about that. I'd just love to get the variety of opinions on that subject, as well as structure. You had said we are trying our best with the homeschool scenario, staying home. Everybody, all of three of us are at home most days, just waking up. She wants to turn on the TV, give her a little breakfast, and then when my wife wakes up and's all ready to go, getting to homeschool, it's like there's not a set time, but there's definitely this time where it's just like, all right, time to homeschool, time to do our thing, and then goes to like 3 or 4 and starts winding down. And she comes out and starts pestering me to take her to the playground, and then we do that for a little bit, and then start the dinner and then bedtime ritual. So
Trying our best to have structure. But I know there's might be some opinions in the dojo where people are, we definitely like to keep the variety, not like you go to the same classes at school every day where you learn the same thing in order every day, but keeping the variety up. But I guess I was just wondering if others have opinions on just structure in general. We're trying to get her some kind of activities, soccer, or back in gymnastics, or back in swimming. And so just some kind of thing that she's got every week, which I think is all good. I don't know. It seemed like that's a universal agreement among parents, is that structure is good, have them have a routine, but also in this new Aquarian way of trying to keep things not so rigid as maybe some of us went through in public school and now our work lives in the slave factories. So just keep the opinions coming, everyone. Just wanted to throw that out there to hear more opinions and witness on that. Thank you.
Several years ago at
Go ahead, James.
Hey guys, really enjoyed listening to this. I just want to add that I'm under the impression that it may not be schedule, it's actually order. That order is a vibrational state that a parent gives out, that a home gives out, that an environment gives out, and that vibrational state is what the child's responding to. And it just happens to be that most of society has learned that the cheapest, most economical way to establish that is by having a schedule, is by living your life in a regimented way through time. And because of that, I don't think that that's bad, but I wanted to at least throw out that I've lost respect for a lot of my elders growing up because I noticed that they were being loyal to, I didn't know it this way, but they were being loyal to a hypothetical invisible that none of us could appeal to. And I felt like it was cheating all of us as a family. We weren't able to be together because of this hypothetical regimented schedule that was coming from outside of ourselves. And I've never felt so alone seeing that over and over and over again. And I think what happens more with kids is that fear is a color to a child. Stress is a color. Fatigue is a color. It's a primary flavor too. It's such a primary flavor that the nuance of the yellows that Monet can pull out of a field of flowers is not going to respond in the same way to a child. That child's going to need prickly and fuzzy and pink and sparkly. He's going to need those really obvious differences of geometry to navigate the world, right? It's just a different spectrum. And that's why you see that in children's toys and things like that. The only reason I'm telling you guys what you already know, and by the way, I'm more here to learn, but I want you to know that when I think that a child regulates a family much more than a family regulates a child, that most of the time, because that child is running in flow state, they are able to apprehend a situation, an energetic situation, and change it through the pure power, not of thought, not of reason, but of just imagination. That through animism, they don't have to figure out that if I say to dad, hey, dad, you seem stressed. I think you shouldn't worry about the retirement package because the whole thing's a fraud anyway. They're not going to be able to say those exact things to dad. But energetically, through the feeling, much like you would figure out a tune, right, on a piano, like you're just, you know how to find it. You know what's right, and you find it. And I think that you're seeing that more in its raw form with children, but they don't have the same judgments over negativity. That the negativity that you secrete in front of your children is actually beautiful. That it is showing them a constructive way that they change the environment. And that a child will ask for discipline, will ask for structure, will ask for things in the weirdest, bizarrest way because they know what they want. And they know through belief that I need that and I have to have it. And neurons either snap or they don't. And we tend to ignore them because they're not following the regimented way of getting there. And what profoundly shocked me was not the times when my mom was nice or reasoning with me. It was when her energy was so powerful. It had so much vibration in it that it stopped my whole fucking world. And I didn't need to understand it. I didn't need to be reasoned about it. I just felt that this was so important to my mom that it became me. It just became important to me. I don't know why I'm starting to cry about it, but it's like profound because it's about her vibration. It's never about her words. It's about her presence. And most of the time, that presence, I was pulling negativity out of her because I knew she fucking needed someone to do it, that no one else was there to do it. And I think kids do that all the fucking time and they don't even know it. Like they're just walking around doing that, just like psychically trying to chiropractically help people all the fucking time. And they don't even know it. And they do, right? Because a child lights up a room. A child has that ability to penetrate. And that ability isn't pretend. It's not just because they're little. It's not because of the Fibonacci sequence. It's all bullshit. It's because they have that energy. They have that kind of approach. And I think that you have it too. And when you think that you're spoiling your child by going, oh, what are you doing freaking out? I get that. I totally relate to that. But I want you to realize that by you coming outside and going, you're not wearing shoes, what you're really doing is coming outside saying, purple, green sparkles. And then the child's like, wow, I never considered purple, green sparkles. You're right. We got to fucking get purple, green sparkles. And then they are just there with you. They don't have that same kind of, they don't take offense. You know what I mean? I think what's happening is that your guilt is instantly coming out, and that guilt is being transmitted and sigiled in your child. And then you're going to feel that way later. And you're going to feel that way later because you need to feel that way too. So both of you are using each other in a healthy way. What makes it unhealthy is how guilty we feel. It's our passion for how this has to be wrong. There's got to be something wrong around here. Fuck, right? I mean, there's got to be something fucked up. I've got to be fucked up somewhere. Why? Because we don't regulate ourselves. We regulate ourselves through these social interactions of guilt, shame, virtue, all that stuff. Kids don't play that nuanced game. They don't want to play bridge. They want to play checkers. Totally different rules, right? Totally different. Anyway, just keep going because I just fucking love hearing this stuff.
I just want to take a moment and really like take it in. Yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with what's been happening. You know, I think it's really it's a frustrating struggle for me to find, I guess, where my approach should be, but I still, I see it as being a really good thing, even though he's frustrated and I get frustrated because I go out there and yell purple, green sparkles, and he's like, that really was his reaction. He was like, what? Fucking shoes? What are you talking about? Go back inside and do what you were doing. So I don't see it really being as right or wrong. I think it's just, that energetical exchange I
You
do resonate
find-
with.
You will find more energy by shedding less. And you will shed less by stop second guessing everything you're doing, if you're doing that. And you will shed less by worrying less about the application of your witness. That your witness there is what's needed. And that's where all the power is. It's going to be in that witness. Is that witness projecting guilt, shame, doubt? Or is that witness projecting order? I would get so upset as a child. It would take my mom a few days to figure it out. And we would lock both of ourselves in my room and we would clean my room. And I think that's why I started cry earlier, because it helps so much. It fucking helped so much as a kid that my mom finally figured out he needs to clean his fucking room. And I didn't understand how that fucking worked with order, right? I just didn't. I still don't. But that is so big. When you have that order, you feel powerful because everything that you put somewhere is where you put it. And it's like, it's such, like it intrinsically charges you, which I think why so many good homes are typically clean, like typically more sparse, because there's less props. There's less sigils that require the order to be placed to them. It's literally what a mantle is, that we have a mantle in our home because it allows us to prove to ourselves that we have control over this environment, that I can place something here and it will be here tomorrow. No one will take it. I can go to sleep and I'll wake up, it'll still be here. That is actually what makes our home feel like our home, because it gives us that energetic charge, right? So look for charge everywhere, Anna, and you'll find all that charge in all your emotions, right? You'll know when your emotions are pouring energy out of you, and you'll know when your emotions are pulling energy into you, and just go with that. Find where your emotions are leading you. And I think you'll just only find more energy that way. And it sounds selfish, but it's exactly how it should be, because then your child will watch you do that. Will just watch you do the same thing. And maybe that's why some children don't respect other parents, because they're not watching the regulation of their electricity, right? Because if you can come out and spend 60% scolding your child versus 100%, they're going to feel that you have more order because you only had to expend 60% electricity to stop them from sticking a fork in the electric shock than 100, right? That's a show of power, is the one that doesn't have to spend it all. It's a very calming place to be, right? It's the difference between raccoon eyes and just a nice, calm gaze.
Oh, I was already muted. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Lynette and Amber and Dee. I don't know who's next.
So, James, your words are magic. I know I say it every time, but man, you're powerful, and you know how to use your magic perfectly. I'm going to take this back to Mark. When you talk about your daughter's schedule and things like that, and I do believe in, like as James was saying, order, and we do have a lot of order in our home. But when you're talking about getting your child involved in different activities and things like that, like let's not forget to schedule less, right? I think there's this key to schedule less. Allow them that time to come into themselves and to play. Like so much of our child's learning comes from play, and don't forget the importance of that when you are doing your homeschooling schedule. Just allow that time to fall into themselves. And the other thing I was going to say is just so much of my parenting style is really feeling my children. You know, I feel them more than I even see them. So it's like really just feel where they are and how to steer the household, right? Like when you feel them as opposed to see them, I feel like it just gives you more of a sense of what needs to happen in your home. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. It's just leave that space for play. Let's not forget the importance of that. Like that should be scheduled in to your routine. And really just, we all just need to really feel them more than we need to see them, I guess is where I'm kind of going.
Yeah, that's really great to also go with and reflect on what James has said. With the whole schedule thing, I mean, I still work. So there's that 9 to 5 schedule that I bring into the whole dynamic. But as far as like school and the things, I mean, there is the order of things, right? We were just talking about like the work up to bedtime. All right, now it's time to calm down. Like now this is the time that like I need to relax, recharge, however you want to label it. But like with for example, we did some Mad Libs yesterday. We did just all kinds of things that were not scheduled. I feel like there's the rhythm of how we function day to day, but there's not really that like, oh, it's 2, so we're going to do this on this day. Like we don't even have a schedule to the point where each day we do that said thing. And James, I did start bringing those empty boxes into the home, and it just turned into, I shared this, I think 2 weeks ago. I was bringing the box in with the intent of it being that project that we had talked about. It did not turn out that way, but it was still quite the mystery box journey. And it continues. It's fantastic. Amber, please go ahead.
I've got another stack of boxes on my deck right now. Big stack that's been was out in the rain, and now they're like smushed and they're full of cane spiders and good stuff. Yeah, gosh, James, everything you said is great. And you started to touch on, I think at the beginning of when you were talking, when is the right time to bring something in, timing. And I think through my teacher training, through more studying Waldorf, Steiner education rather, not necessarily Waldorf, but Steiner. He talks about a lot of things. Charlie, please don't do that. He talks about a lot of things as far as like timing. And one of the things is following a method of teaching to the head, then the heart, and then the hands. And I've just observed this work so beautifully with children. So in early childhood, it's a little bit different. In early childhood, and I could touch on that too for Mark if he'd like, because I know he has a 5-year-old. But when they start to get into the grades, and they are really asking for more learning academically, teaching to the head, the heart, and the hand. So the head is first, right? And so we usually start our day with a circle with a lot of movement, but we're doing a lot of exercises like with verses and singing and numbers and math and counting, things like that. And then after we do that, then we sit down and we do some work at a desk, at a table, and that's the head work, right? That's the thinking stuff. And my daughter at 8 only has like about an hour in her for that, if that. I mean, 1 to 2 hours maybe tops, right? And so depending on the day and what we're doing, what I have planned, we may go and take a picture of a spider and then sketch it in our nature studies book and write a sentence, right? And then that's it, right? And so there's this little window of head, and then in the afternoon, and then heart is kind of the middle of the day, and that's when we do maybe our cooking. We'll cook lunch together. We'll have our baking on Monday. We do baking experiment day, so we'll make an experiment, with food, right? So that's the heart. Like we're using our heart, putting our love into our food that we're then consuming. And then hands is what we use our hands in the afternoon. So that's all of our like physical work. Like my daughter does, she knits, or she, they love to craft and build projects, and they'll do that all day. But in the afternoon is really when I find we're like doing building projects, right? We're making forks, or we're doing things in the yard. And I think that there's also, to touch on this for Eric, there's a rhythm to humans, right? There's this rhythm that we can create for our children to help them self-regulate. And the rhythm it's an in-breath, and then there's an out-breath. And the in-breath is the taking in of information. We can only take information in for so long before we need to express and get it out, right? So in-breath could be eating or learning from a board and writing things down. And then the out-breath is like movement, right? Or working with our bodies in some way. And I think that is key. So if you can remember just one thing, if you're finding it difficult to do a schedule and to pick a certain time of day to do things, if you can just remember the in-breath and the out-breath for your child, and you can kind of catch it right before they, have reached that point of maximum capacity of taking in, or maximum capacity of letting it out. If you can just catch right before that point and gently transition them. And I think a beautiful way to transition them is through song, and I talk to myself all day long, but I also find myself singing a lot through our activities. And it's just kind of a gentle way to sort of let them know, or give them permission on their own to transition into the next thing that they may be doing. And so, for Eric, for just like an idea of what a schedule or some structure could look like. And I really do believe children are the curriculum. Like, there is no one size fits all for our children. That's the beauty of homeschooling, is we're really just like meeting them as an individual human. But what did work well for me in the classroom with my students, was, we start our day, they would come in and they would do an activity at the table while everyone was arriving, whether it was like kneading dough because we're making bread, or coloring. And then they would have free play for like a half an hour. And that was like their integration with one another, right? And you could still do this at home with your own children. It doesn't have to be a classroom setting. So then there's that free play. And then after free play, it's snack time, right? Then after letting everything out, then we're coming and we're having a snack. And so when you follow that natural rhythm, they're much more willing to work with you on things, right? So then, we have our snack, the children come and they set the table for themselves. They know what to do. They have a job that goes along with it. They take pride in that. And when it's consistent, they love doing it. It becomes very autonomous for them. And it's not like, you're not like telling them this is what you have to do. It's not coming from this authoritarian place, right? It's coming from this place of, this is what makes us feel good about ourselves. It feels good to do this. We enjoy doing this. This isn't a chore or a task, or, I have to set the table. This is like, how beautiful, we'll make the table and we can sing as we do it, or whatever. And this works well for boys too, and you don't have to be as flowery with boys, because I've definitely had boys reject that. I think there's you just have to kind of meet the child where they're at. But then after snack, then it's time for free play again, right? Then it's time for movement. And then if you just kind of follow that rhythm throughout the day, I think it prevents a lot of that butting of heads, where you're feeling like your kids are out of control, they're not listening, and you need to go discipline or put them in their place. Or Eric, I totally understand your struggle, and I can completely relate, and I've so been there. And these are just the things that have really helped me, and have, it's been huge, reframing how I see parenting, instead of as I need to control them and tell them what to do, and they're being unruly, right? And I'm out in public and I need to be a good example in front of other parents, right? Or whatever it may be. Switching that how we see that, instead of like, I have to control them, more like they are in control of themselves. What are their needs right now? They're self-regulating fine, but and looking at the behavior and what's underneath that behavior in those moments. And I think that's it. And one more thing too, like with curriculum with older kids, it's like curriculum's like a recipe, and the recipe can only be as good as the ingredients you're putting into it, right? And the recipe can only be as good, like you can only create a recipe if the cook is skilled and capable of making the food, right? The cook being the teacher. You can only follow a recipe if another part to following a recipe. I don't know where I'm going with this. This is just kind of what's coming to me right now. But another part of following a recipe is being able to get creative with the ingredients, right? So if you're missing an ingredient, what can you add to still make sure all of the flavors are balanced, right? And nothing's overpowering something else, right? So, you know, if we can just kind of look at it through that lens, maybe it's helpful. And I'm more than willing to help, like Eric, or if anyone wants help with structure or like what can be helpful, I can definitely give some tips there. One more thing too is I know, like, especially young children, if each day you have one thing that you do consistently on that day, and you don't have to like schedule anything else, but every Monday is our painting day. Every Tuesday we knead dough for baking our bread on Wednesday. Every Wednesday we blanch vegetables and chop them with our knives, because kids love to use knives, right? At 5, absolutely capable of using a knife, right? Every Thursday we draw, or we model with Play-Doh, whatever it may be. Kids love that. They love to say like, oh, today's Tuesday, today is this day, or, you know, so just adding in one thing, and that might help your wife too. Have her pick something she enjoys for each one of those days, and just do it consistently at the same time, that activity each day. And it's really magic. They really do look forward to it. And you can put a little picture on the wall, and they can draw the pictures for what they do each day, get them involved in it. They love having something like that they can reference, like a chart that's theirs, that they made. So those are all just suggestions. Maybe it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Amber. I love all of it. Thank you all for being here today with me. No more hands are up, and it's past 2. So we're gonna close it out for today. Thank you all so much. It was really, today was one of those days where, you know, when we get off, I just re-look at everything, and I love it. So, you know, it's almost like it's almost like a reset, and I turn around and look the other way. It's beautiful. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everyone.
It's good to see you, Josh. Good to see you
Okay.
guys. Love you, Chop.
Happy weekend, guys.
You too,
Bye.
D-Mac.